Art is something I hold very close to my heart. I was raised in a family that both partook and appreciated art in pretty much every form. My mother was an art teacher for about the first 13 to 14 years of my life, and even more before then. Both my brother and I, for as long as we were going to an actual school, were in some form of an art class, ranging from varying styles of art on canvas and paper to things like ceramics, or for that matter, even my mom taught dance for a while. I grew up with names such as Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, Pablo Picasso, Van Gogh. These are just things I grew up with. On top of that, my mother loves musicals and so does my father, so that stuff is also ingrained in my head. Whether the art be painting, drawing, ceramic, stage play, literature, it is stuff that I grew up not only being familiar with, but also growing to very deeply appreciate. I would go as far as to say a lot of that is very surface level, but what I'm trying to establish here is that I grew up in a family where art has been a staple of just what we enjoy for as long as I can remember. And with that, I wanted to make a video on art. No, I'm not going to be I'm not talking about any of the famous artists I mentioned. I'm not talking about musicals. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about video games. You're on a gaming channel here. I think that makes sense. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, one of the definitions of art is the conscious use of skill and creative imagination, especially in the production of aesthetic objects. If you go by the Oxford Dictionary, it means the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. And on a personal level, I can still remember the exact moments that I kind of realized gaming is an art form. To set the groundworks for what I'm about to say, for a majority of my younger years, I was primarily multiplayer person, Halo Reach, Call of Duty, all that. I almost never touched the campaigns. Sure, I knew about them, sure, I played them a little bit, but I never really got into them. I was there for the multiplayer experience. Don't get me wrong, it was a lot of fun to play those games, but when you only play multiplayer, you are missing on some of the creative and artistic integrity that is put into those games. Some of you might expect this sort of game, some of you guys probably are going to be a bit confused, but of all the games that I could have had this realization, I was playing a little game that takes place on the planet of Pandora. Throughout all the Borderlands games, they've always had a very specific, cel-shaded art style. Vibrant colors, almost a bold outline around most objects. A humorous, dumb world teeming with things wanting to kill you, whether that they be human or beast. And again, there are actually a lot of amazing views and things you can find and see in the Borderlands games. But there is one memory that I have imprinted and never forgotten that just stays in my mind. It's not that far into the game, actually. You can get there within the first 30 minutes of starting up Borderlands 2. There's a very specific moment that I recall. I was in the Southern Shelf at Hammerlock's place. I don't know why, but I decided to climb atop his house, and as I was doing so, the nighttime pretty much just started. I don't know what caused me to just pause for a moment, but I remember looking out upon this skybox, this vast landscape in front of me of mostly dead, cold tundra. And above this cold, desolate tundra where you see a couple bandit camps and waste is this huge moon in the sky being eclipsed by the Hyperion ship. And I remember I put my controller down and I just looked at this. I remember feeling helpless for some reason. The joy of playing the game was replaced with this weird melancholy feeling of loss. This was the first time in a game I ever wondered, how am I going to make a difference? How am I supposed to help against such a massive threat? I'm one person. What am I supposed to do? And I sat there. I didn't touch the controller until the sun rose on Pandora. But that feeling stuck with me for the rest of that playthrough, and that would go on to be the first time I actually finished Borderlands 2. That feeling and remembering that feeling is what kept driving me forwards in that game. I'm not sure if that's what the game devs wanted. For sure, I know for a fact that they were going for a visually distinct and rich experience full of amazing visuals, but I'm not sure if that's the effect they wanted, but I know it's the effect I got. I know that when I think of Borderlands and all the shenanigans and jokes and exploding bodies, I know beneath all of that, there's a memory of a young me being shocked and just in awe of this one little scene. And from that point, I kind of started to look at games as a whole in a new lens. While I continued to play multiplayer games, I had a new appreciation for single-player games and wanted to experience those stories and look at them in a light that I had not yet. It feels weird to say out loud that I would be hard-pressed to not give credit to Borderlands 2 for making me realize that there is artistic value in games. Art is a very unique, special thing. It can be interpreted by each person differently. While I'm sure some people might come to similar conclusions, each piece of art that really connects with somebody will never fully mean the exact same thing as it does to somebody else. It might be close, it might be similar, but they'll never truly be the same. And that's okay. By all means, that is amazing. It is one of the things that makes us as humans unique. Our past experiences, the way our brains work, how our emotions work, they all lead to different end goals. They all lead to different results, and they all lead to different interpretations. The next game I want to talk about is Halo Reach, actually. This was my favorite game back on 360, and to this day it still holds a very special place in my heart. But I remember the first time I played through the campaign with, for lack of a better term, fresh eyes. The art direction of Halo Reach is far different than Borderlands 2. It is much more grungy, realistic, militaristic. And in a lot of ways, the story is that much more somber. You have to understand, Halo Reach is a prequel to Halo 1. And if I remember correctly, the main tagline for Halo Reach is, "You already know how this story ends." And I think that that accumulates to a masterfully told, well-written story. You follow Noble Six, who is the character you play as, who is really supposed to represent you and your story in the game. You're not playing Master Chief, who is this nigh invincible god amongst men. You're playing a Spartan, who is, don't get me wrong, no pushover, but you're not protected by plot armor. You're not this unkillable being. You join Noble Team, who is this highly skilled squad of Spartans on the planet Reach. I don't want to spoil the entire story and how things happen, but as the story continues, you see each Spartan die one by one. It starts with George giving his life to save you and make sure that you can get back to the planet without dying. He takes on the sacrifice, that way you don't have to. Of the 4 characters that die, I would say only 2 of them really go down in a flash of glory, if you will. That being George, sacrificing himself to blow up a Covenant ship, and Emil, who, even as he is injured, fights on in one of the most gruesome scenes I've seen in Halo.
I'm ready! How about you?
Then there's 2 other deaths in Noble Team. There's Kat, where, as you are simply running to an elevator, is shot and pierced through the skull, killing her like that. And you have Carter, who, in an effort to save you from a scarab, once again sacrifices himself by crashing a pelican into it.
No, you can't. Not without help.
Commander, you don't have the firepower.
I've got the math.
Silent cop. Hit him hard, boss.
You're on your own, Noble. Carter out.
Now, by no means is that a non-heroic death. He did it to save you and the remainder of Noble Team, which at that point I do believe is just you, Emil, and June. But even so, all he says is a simple goodbye before he's gone like that. The thing about Halo Reach to me is how impactful each death of Noble Team is. You already know how the story ends, but you almost wish it wasn't the end. Halo Reach shows just how fragile life is in so many ways. How people you care for and have grown attached to ultimately can be gone like that. It does a good job of showing that not every single death is going to be this heroic flash of glory. It can all end with a simple pull of the trigger or even just a simple goodbye. From the moment you start in the Halo Reach campaign, it is this feeling of just trying to cut whatever losses you can. You know Reach is gone. There is so little you can do. It's just about trying to cut whatever losses we can to minimize the damage. But in the end, all but 1 member of Noble Team dies on Reach. But that's not to say there wasn't at least a spark of hope. Not hope for you and your squad, but hope for humanity moving forward. Dr. Halsey, who's the person that created the Spartan program, but also made the Cortana AI, entrusts Noble Six to deliver it to the UNSC. It's your character's sacrifice that enables Master Chief to then get Cortana in the future. It enables hope for humanity later on. You know that, but ultimately, none of the Spartans that you play as do. Halo Reach tells a heartbreaking, melancholy, sad story, even though as the player you know that there's hope. It never truly pulls away from the hopelessness and just utter defeat you feel as you play the game. And the ending cutscene of Noble Six throwing off his helmet and fighting till he can't anymore is another one of those times where that will always be a memory I have of that game. It was a beautiful mix of a melancholic tone with scenes and shot composition and just art direction that truly brings it all together into one cohesive package. I guess to shift away from that, there's so many other games. BioShock, Dark Souls, Valheim, Assassin's Creed. There's so many games that I could talk about in this category. If I'm being 100% honest, I probably chose some of the least enticing examples, and that's not even getting started on the indie games that there are. One of the games that I actually really wanted to make a video on, but just a playthrough, was a game called Before Your Eyes. Before Your Eyes is this amazing indie game that tells a really heartbreaking story that still feels somewhat happy at the end. A game that I personally hold dear is a game called A Story About My Uncle, another indie game by actually the same people that would go on to make Valheim and Goat Simulator. There are so many games that I want to make videos on, have made videos on, but want to redo them in a better way. There's so many games I could talk about and put here, but I would be here all day. And maybe that's worth it, but it almost feels like some of these games deserve their own videos entirely, which is, to be honest, what I'm gonna do. If I can bring attention to just how important some of these games are to me, then that's all I really want to do. One of the things I'd like to do is just thank all the game developers and the artists and the mastery that you put into these works. I know that odds are this video will never be on their desks. There's a chance that this video just doesn't go over well, and that's fine. That's okay. But even so, I want to thank you. All the game devs, all the indie developers, everyone. You have made an artistic medium that brings both visual art and literary art together and served it to us in amazing packages. You have made unique and detailed worlds. You have made unique and detailed worlds for us to be able to explore and enjoy. So, at a whole, thank you. Keep giving it your all. Keep trying. So many of you guys are doing such an amazing job. What I kind of realize about this video is that this is kind of a fresh start for me. It's the end of the video, so I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Since the release of my last video on Dark Souls, it's made me relook at how I make content. Yeah, gameplays and stream highlights are nice and all, but there really is something special about being able to be open and honest about how I feel about games, and usually a very positive light. Talking about their value, talking about the lessons learned, talking about the artistic mastery, talking about so many of these things. This is what I want to do. Yeah, sure, the occasional stream highlight or whatever is fine. Sure, the occasional gaming video is cool, but these videos, for me, mean so much more. Whether others get value out of this, again, I'm not sure, but for me, I can be satisfied in knowing that I made something that I am truly happy and proud of. I'm going to start making videos with the direction of having purpose and reason for being. So again, consider this almost a bit of a jumping off point. Sure, there might be the occasional stream highlight and whatnot, but these kind of videos have kind of tapped into something that I've been wanting to do and make for a very long time. I hope to everyone I'll be able to do a satisfactory, good job, but all I can promise is that I'll do my best for making these. Thank you all so much for watching and tuning in, and hopefully this felt like a video that was worth watching. If you'd like to, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, because you can expect more videos like this. But that all being said and done, thank you all so much for watching. My name has been Risen Chaos, signing off once again.